Welcome back, everyone, to part 2 of our explainer. If you were here for part 1, you already know we've been unraveling this wild, hidden story flowing right through your veins. I am so pumped to have you back because we are jumping right back into the bloodstream today. We're picking up exactly where we left off, shifting gears from the common blood types to some of the absolute rarest, most unique biological stories out there.
Okay, let's kick things off with a question that honestly sounds a bit like a medical mystery. What happens when a single, incredibly tiny, microscopic factor just goes missing? You know, we almost always focus on what our bodies have, the traits we inherit, the muscles we build, but human biology, it's just as heavily shaped by what we completely lack. Keep this in the back of your mind as we go through today's explainer, because as you'll see, the total absence of something tiny can be a massive, literally life-altering variable.
And that brings us to our first stop, the power of a negative blood. We are officially leaving the common types behind and entering a space where rarity completely rewrites the medical rulebook.
So let's break down what makes A negative such a game changer. Take a look at A positive. It's got both the A antigen and that Rh positive factor. But then look at A negative. It has the exact same A antigen, but it is totally missing the Rh factor. That's it. That one single missing piece, that tiny absence we just talked about, changes the entire playing field for who can safely receive this blood. It perfectly illustrates how transfusion rules have to drastically pivot based on what isn't there.
Because of this incredibly specific makeup, only a tiny slice of the global population actually has A negative blood. This rarity, it makes A negative a hugely precious commodity. I mean, hospitals have to carefully, painstakingly manage every single donation they get. Why? Well, because A negative red blood cells can often be given to patients with both A negative and A positive blood types. It's this incredibly versatile, vital tool that doctors absolutely depend on when they urgently need compatible blood to save a life.
But let's pivot to how this exact same rarity creates one of the trickiest challenges in human biology. While A negative is a total hero in the trauma ward, it brings a really unique danger to a totally different space, pregnancy. Specifically, a huge hurdle pops up when an Rh negative mother is carrying an Rh positive baby.
Let's quickly walk through how this biological chain reaction plays out. Step 1. An Rh negative mom is carrying her Rh positive baby. Step 2. The mom's immune system, which, remember, lacks that Rh factor entirely, suddenly spots the baby's Rh factor and thinks, whoa, what is this? It treats it like a foreign invader. Step 3. Without medical help, her immune system can actually launch an attack. And this becomes incredibly dangerous, especially for any future pregnancies. The body is just doing what it thinks it needs to do to protect itself, but the consequences can be completely devastating.
But guys, here is where the story takes a massive, triumphant turn. Modern medicine literally solved this exact problem. Scientists came up with a special injection for expecting moms dealing with this Rh incompatibility. It's brilliant. It essentially acts like an invisibility cloak, hiding the Rh factor so the mother's immune system never gets sensitized to it in the first place. This single breakthrough has protected countless mothers and babies all over the planet. It is just an absolute victory of science over a microscopic biological misunderstanding.
So, what's the big takeaway here? Well, A negative is this powerful reminder that being rare isn't just a quirky biological footnote. When it comes to the blood flowing through your veins, being rare means your physiological contribution becomes incredibly, undeniably important. Whether it's providing that super versatile blood for an emergency or navigating the whole pregnancy challenge, that missing Rh factor literally shapes modern medicine.
All right, let's shift our focus over to our next major blood group, B positive, and look at some myths versus the actual medicine. Now, B positive is fairly common globally, but its story is wildly unique because how often you see it changes massively depending on where you are in the world and population ancestry. Walk down the street in one country, it's everywhere. In another, much harder to find. But honestly, the most fascinating thing about B positive is how it sits right at this weird crossroads of hard biological reality and total cultural myth. But before we get into the myths, let's actually look at the real biology. People with B positive blood have the B antigen on their red blood cells, plus that Rh positive factor. Their immune system is this perfectly tuned machine designed to accept certain blood types while strictly rejecting others. They safely receive red blood cells from the B and O groups, but if you try to introduce an incompatible type, the immune system fights back hard. It's just a highly specific, elegant defense system.
However, like a lot of things in life, B positive has gotten tangled up in some pretty wild pseudoscientific myths. In certain cultures, people genuinely believe that having type B blood totally dictates your personality. They label type B folks as fiercely independent, super unpredictable, or yeah, even selfish. It's kind of crazy how much we humans try to find hidden meaning in our biology, but let's be absolutely crystal clear. These are 100% cultural myths. There is zero science backing this up. None.
Actually, I want to firmly shut down these myths with this thought right here. A molecule on the surface of a red blood cell cannot decide whether someone is kind, brave, creative, or caring. Hit the nail on the head, right? Your character, who you are as a person, that comes from your choices, your upbringing, the life you've lived. It definitely doesn't come from some microscopic marker floating around in your veins.
The real story of B positive has absolutely nothing to do with personality traits. The real story is medicine. Let's ground ourselves back in the reality that every single donation from a B positive donor is a vital, literal lifesaver. It goes to patients who desperately need compatible blood during major traumas, super complex treatments, and surgeries. That is the actual, tangible impact of this blood type.
And that beautifully transitions us to B negative's hidden connection. This is one of the rarest combinations in the whole human population. If we take that Rh factor away from the B blood group, the numbers just absolutely plummet. B negative is incredibly uncommon, which means finding a matching donor is a major, constant headache for blood banks and hospitals everywhere.
Because it is so scarce, blood banks are constantly facing shortages of B negative. And when those supplies drop, the entire medical system is forced to depend entirely on the very, very small number of generous people who actually carry it. The burden and the power to save lives rests squarely on the shoulders of just a few individuals. It is a fragile supply chain that relies on nothing but pure human generosity.
You know what makes this whole dynamic so beautiful but so completely hidden is the relationship between the donor and the recipient. We're talking about two total strangers. Most rare blood donors are never going to meet the people they help. They'll probably never know whose terrible car accident they helped survive or whose critical surgery they made possible. They literally just walk into a clinic, give a piece of themselves, and walk back out into the world, leaving a literal miracle behind for someone they don't even know.
And honestly, that is the true heartbeat of this explainer. Behind every single bag of donated blood, whether it's A negative, B positive, or the super rare B negative, there is this powerful, invisible connection. It's one human being voluntarily giving a piece of themselves so that another human being gets a second chance at life. Yes, it's fascinating science, but more than that, it's one of the most profound acts of unseen kindness out there.
But hey, our journey through the bloodstream, it isn't over just yet. Now that we've got a solid grip on how these factors operate, the story is about to take an even wilder turn as we look at how the AB rules change.
I want to leave you with one final crazy question to chew on. What happens when the biological rules of receiving and donating blood, literally the exact rules we just spent this whole explainer establishing, completely flip upside down? Like, how does the human body handle a blood type that breaks all the conventions? Trust me, you won't want to miss it. Thank you so much for learning with me today, and I will see you in part 3 as we unlock the mysteries of the AB blood group.